I really love the concept. I think it's a really fun way to engage an audience in a short message, but an impactful one.
Hello, it's John Bernatovich, president and founder of Willory and also organizer for DisruptHRCbus. As we continue on our journey of bringing content to the HR community, as we are on a pause for putting together and holding our DisruptHRCbus inaugural event. In that spirit, we are continuing these video coffee chats with relevant committee members and speakers, as well as anticipating our virtual roundtable session on April 30th, where we'll cover a wide range of HR-related and relevant and timely topics, where our speakers will debate those and share their insights. And speaking of speakers, one of our speakers, I'm joined by Meghan Hollan. Meghan is the Vice President of Human Resources for CR Architecture and Design. She is SHRM certified and lives in the Cincinnati area. So welcome, Meghan.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about, it looks like you're working from home, or you have the coolest office in all of Cincinnati. So tell me what it's like working from home, and who's keeping you company these days.
Yeah, so working from home has definitely been interesting. I am very, I guess, fortunate that I have shared parenting. So I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. So I have them part of my time during the week. And then part of my time not during the week. So I do get a lot of my productivity done from Wednesday afternoon through Friday. I know a lot of parents out there that have their children full time, which is very challenging, but do get to work from home just from a safety perspective and exposure perspective, trying to minimize any kind of risk there. We are classified as an essential business because of the clients that we serve. So I do have the option to go into my office should I need or should I choose, but currently I've chosen like 95% of our associate base to remain at home just to avoid the spread of COVID.
Cool. So you got the little ones 4 and 8 part of the time, and then the other time you're there on your own. You got a pet, an animal, a fish, anything keeping you company?
I have a boyfriend, so he keeps me company on the time that I don't have them. So we have a lot more quiet than usual. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Good for you. So as the VP of HR of a well-respected architecture and design firm, like what got you into HR, and why do you do what you do, Meghan?
Yeah. So I actually didn't know much about human resources when I first got into it. I interned and co-opt. That was all the rage when I was in college. And, you know, everyone kept putting me into HR and I didn't really know what it was. And I was like, okay, you know, I enjoyed it. I undergrad in public relations with marketing and really enjoyed people and event planning and communications. And so it just became a natural fit. The program didn't even exist at my college when I first graduated. They started it shortly thereafter and asked me to help with some of the advisement around it, which was great. But I really love it. The funny thing is my older sister ended up in recruitment, and now she's a senior level in HR for a company in Minnesota. My little sister decided to go into HR after the fact, as did my sister-in-law. So I have 4 of all the girls in my family. We are all in human resources. So it must be in our blood or just something about our personalities. I'm not quite sure which, but we always joke about holidays are certainly interesting around my family.
I'm sure you have very interesting
Thanksgiving
talks. And what in the hell happened crazy at your office the last few weeks?
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's cool. Fantastic. So as it relates to kind of the current state of events and where we're at as other than being displaced kind of back into your working from home from a safety perspective, anything else in addition to that from an impact as it relates to COVID-19?
Just like every employer, we've struggled with a lot of the questions around, you know, furloughs, layoffs, as well as clients. And we've suffered the gamut of all of them. You know, I've lost one member of my team so far, just because we had to reduce some of our overhead staffing. Our goal is certainly to help everyone return when this comes, you know, when this shakes out and we're back to a more steady, stable state. But a lot of our clients are in the retail sector. And so we watch that very closely of what they're doing. We're very fortunate that a lot of our clients are still stable. None of them have filed for bankruptcy or anything of that nature, but we have to be very careful because in the architectural world, growth and demand for development is going to change greatly. Even one of our major clients, we have grocery clients, we have healthcare, we have government, but those are all doing very strong. But when we look at our hospitality clients that have been one of our bread and butters for a long-standing relationship, they were holding on strong that they were going to do all their renovations during this downturn. But when the extended stay-at-home order continued in most of the states, I think that they were taken aback because they thought, great, even though business is slow, we're going to use this opportunity to do our renovations, so we're ready, and for a lot of our hospitality clients, they as this continued on, like many companies, everyone kind of was like, whoa, this is going to take a lot more than what we realized. We're going to put a pause. And by putting a pause on it, it means that our team members are less productive, they're less billable in their time, and that definitely becomes a challenge because we are dependent upon the work that comes in to be able to keep our team members productive in their time, billable, and bringing in the financials to support all of our roles. And so we have to make sure that we're continuing to develop those relationships, but it's a hard time to ask clients for more business too, because it's hard. Everything's at a standstill, whether construction can go on or what we can ask for future business. It's all unknown.
Yeah. I have seen in my community a number of projects that were started that continue on, but I think as you go through this period where you have a 1 month, 2 month, 3 month lag of new projects, and there'll be a kind of a cascading impact of that down the road. So I totally understand and appreciate that.
Depends on the project for us. We found, because countrywide, every state's different, and we operate out of multiple states. The biggest thing that we saw an impact to was where Governor DeWine was starting to question some of the safety of the construction sites because of how long the virus could last on structures, on metal, on things of that nature. And if a site had a positive testing, a construction site could actually be postponed for or shut down completely because the virus could live on the metal within the structure.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with all that, unknown and change in business and downturn, potential delay on projects, obviously furloughs, layoffs, and none of that is the fun stuff that we in HR like to practice. Is there any silver linings or things that you've looked at as a result of having to slow down and maybe work from home or do things differently that you think in the long term will come out as a positive in all this?
I think that it's given me the opportunity to really connect with our team members in just a different way. I do a lot around our culture and our engagement, but even just starting their day out. I taught a stretching class and it was guided through an actual instructor, that's just a video through something that I do, but we as a group did it as a Zoom call. And it was funny because we all put our videos off, but we actually all followed along with the entire class, and it's a 20-minute stretch class through Beachbody Fitness. And it was a great way that I taught it on a Wednesday and taught it on a Friday. So I captured different audiences and, people were like, really? But my goal was to bring Wellness Wednesdays. Let's talk about mental wellness. Let's talk about physical wellness. And, ergonomic wellness is a big part of it because we're all sitting at chairs, stations that aren't ergonomic. And I don't know about all companies, but ergonomics is important in architecture. We have the lift top desks, we have the proper seating. And so trying to make sure that our team members have good flow, good body, posture, all those things are still important. And so we're connecting on different ways. We're doing a, Thursday afternoon happy hour, and we're playing games and just doing different things to keep communication and people seeing each other going, that we don't get to do because we're not interacting in the office. So I think it's just, it's definitely made me think out of the box as an HR leader. I've been doing this for 15 years and it's all new. I taught at UC a class right before the school started closing, and the students were asking me from the Cincinnati UC SHRM Society. They were asking me, have you experienced this before? How do you deal with this? I'm like, no one's experienced this before. This is all new. So it's like, We're all on the same playing field. We're all learning at the same pace. So I feel like that's been definitely unique and teaching me different things about just when you get comfortable in your role after so long doing something. It's HR is always evolving, and the expectation and what the workforce needs are always evolving. And this one's just, it's a doozy.
It is a doozy. Once in a lifetime, if not beyond that, I hope.
Let's hope.
For those,
yeah.
Those behind us for sure. So you mentioned a few things, Megan, about just the adjustment to wellness, mental wellness, physical wellness, and just kind of thinking in a different means. Are there other strategic conversations you've had with your leadership team based upon the uncertainty of the business climate and some of your clients and projects that you could share with the group that's maybe been impactful? Again, as we deal with this in like long range planning, right? We had, at least from my perspective, we had, a quarterly plan, a yearly plan, a 3-year plan. All of a sudden it feels like, okay, what's the plan for this week? And then beyond that. So.
Yeah. Right now, our biggest thing is how do we immerse people back into an unknown workforce and engage them in a way that they don't feel pressured, but they feel comfortable, safe, that they've been heard. And how do we also be empathetic that it's going to be very different, because we're going to have some people returning to work. Some parents won't be able to return because of the school systems. And, depending on what summer brings, we might not even have summer care. So how do you engage and hold people accountable, but also have the expectation around our team members coming back into the workforce, but also knowing that not everybody is going to return? And do you allow that? We're definitely, our strategic team is definitely a stronger belief that we're more productive when we're in office. And so how we're going to engage people and work with them, but still make them feel good about the transition has been our biggest strategy. Similar to, how I've handled a lot of maternity leaves, we're doing, we're going to go back to the office. Everyone's going to have a different day of the week that they choose. And then we're going to each take one day to go back. And then we'll go back 2 days. And then we'll go back 3 days, just to get ourselves comfortable, make sure that we're limiting social, physical spacing. We're also reworking our whole office layout to give people proper spacing, and trying to make sure that people have the distance so that they can be in the office but also be safe. So yeah, a lot of our annual planning, our strategic quarterly planning, all of that, we all were like, pause, we'll worry about that later. It's a great plan. We really hope we get back to it. Right now, we have a daily touch base, and it's what's happening today. I mean, EFMLAE did an update 2-3 days ago that's completely new about PTO usage, that I'm like, okay, great. Now what's this going to mean for people that are utilizing this? So it's definitely touch and go. And I think the best thing that I can tell any HR leader, because I've talked to a lot of people in my HR roundtable groups, and they're like, I feel like I'm so behind, or I feel like I don't even understand this stuff, or I can't even interpret the data. It's like, you're not alone. Everybody's feeling like that. We're all like trying to read everything and go on every conference call and listen to any expert that will tell us anything. And then we find out it contradicts the thing that we heard earlier,
Right.
So that just seems like it's the constant way that we are living life right now. So,
which I know human beings as a whole don't like change, and the creativity, and my word is adaptability. We have to adapt to, and it seems like you're adapting, like you said, could be multiple times in a day as opposed to multiple times in a year or in a quarter. So yeah, I certainly appreciate that. You mentioned your group of HR professionals. Is there anything you can share or suggest based upon all that you've gone through, and ways that we can support the HR community at this time, relative to, again, like you said, not knowing exactly what tomorrow is going to bring?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, if you're an HR leader and you don't have a circle of trusted HR people, try to reach out and figure that out, because especially now, whether you're a SHRM member or you're a local chapter member. I was always a chapter member, always a SHRM member, but I had a few select people I talked to, but wasn't part of a bigger group. And I joined the HR conference committee, who puts on the annual Ohio HR conference, as well as a local group in Cincinnati just this year, called the HR Roundtable, that Darlene Mack puts on. And having those two groups to bounce ideas off of, ask questions of, and even just, sympathize and empathize with has been huge for me, just from a well-being standpoint, because HR right now, our team members look to us. They look to see if we're rattled, because a lot of companies don't have the great leaders. They own the company. They've grew up in that type of business, and maybe they don't have all the leadership tools. I should just leave it at that. And so they look to us to see, how are we faring in this? And are we confident? Are we strong? Are we being caring? Are we making sure that things are getting answered and moving along? And I think that we need people that we can lean on as well, in order to just, feel that we're human, and it's okay that we don't know all the answers. Because normally when it comes to things like FMLA or leave of absences, or time away from work, or how the schedule's going to go, we know those answers typically. And
Right.
this is just different. And so, I try to keep as strong of a presence with our team members, even when we had to lay people off remotely, which was very challenging. We want to make sure that team members still feel comfortable and confident to rely on us for questions and good transparency.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Having that community of people that you can rely on, at the same time that you can certainly empathize, as you said, with your sisters and sister-in-law. Like, it just is, it's kind of banding together of sisters and brothers that are experiencing the same thing, and you can feel like, well, okay, I'm not alone. This is like really crazy times, and this is really hard for me to figure out. And everybody else I talk to seems like it's really hard for them to figure it out too. So
yeah. And everybody's so willing to share. So if you are an HR person out there, just kind of been doing your HR thing and not being a part of a group, I strongly recommend finding a way to connect with other individuals in the HR community, because a lot of times they'll be able to share and help, or even just listen.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, so to bring kind of full circle on the conversation of you being a speaker and part of our original 13, and I know we're excited again to have you on April 30th for our roundtable kind of virtual discussion. So tell me about your experience with this. I know you're from Cincinnati, which is the founding city and home of Jen McClure and others. So please tell me a little bit about your experience, and then your enthusiasm of speaking at the Columbus event.
Yeah, so I love Disrupt HR. I've been to almost all of the Cincinnati locations. Steve Brown is a dear friend and mentor that I'm fortunate to say, as is Jennifer. So I spoke at Disrupt HR Cincinnati 2 falls ago, and I actually did a talk called Attack of the Millennials. And it was really trying to banish some of the stereotypes about different generations, especially focused on millennials, because I am a millennial, and I kind of jested about driving a minivan and being in my 30s, and, and having the kids, and what people view of a millennial is actually Gen Z a lot of times. And so just talking through that, and the importance of taking each person for who they uniquely are is very important. But I also did a call to action to anyone who was in the audience that was a millennial: stop letting the stereotype be what you are, or stop being the stereotype for that matter. But I really love the concept. I think it's a really fun way to engage an audience in a short message, but an impactful one. And so when I saw Columbus, and I've known a lot of the people from Willory from coming to Disrupt Cincinnati and talking to them, and was excited to see it come to Columbus. And in my former career, I was both in Cincinnati and the Columbus marketplace, and I spent a lot of time in Columbus. So I was excited and honored to be chosen to talk about my topic of Mama Up, which is a play on words of man up, but about what it's like to be working moms, and how I've learned, because I used to not understand why people were, not giving it their 110% that were working parents. And then when you become a parent, you're like, okay, I get it.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah.
Perspective is unique. Yeah, no, I did check out your presentation, and ironically, my second talk that I did in Cleveland a few years ago was about Generation X, being kind of sandwiched between the boomers and the millennials. Yep. And me being a Gen Xer myself, it was easier for me to give that, and I broke the mold. I did a dance routine and all this stuff. It was stupid, crazy fun, but
that's anyway. Great. I made a t-shirt, and people were like, why didn't you print these t-shirts? We would have bought these, because it said I Heart Millennials. And They were like, you could have made a killing off that. I was like, no.
That wasn't the point. Yeah.
That wasn't the point. That wasn't the
Yeah.
point. No, but it's a great, I love following the talks. I use them a lot in my training classes, even for non-HR professionals. For a lot of leadership development, we'll watch different people's snippets of talks. I love the one about the gal that broke the time clock, but didn't really, like the shaming of people. There's so many great talks out there, and they're 5 minutes. So they're great to use and to just showcase a really important leadership topic that's not just HR.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been an awesome experience for us. So, well, that said, all of us at Willory will continue to pray and provide great thoughts to all the frontline healthcare workers and the people that are supporting them, as well as those physically impacted by COVID. You're in our hearts and prayers. In addition to that, I know this has had an impact on a lot of other things, not nearly as important of trying to put on an event. Although this event is important to the Columbus community because bringing together great people into the human resource community and our way of being able to share new, innovative, thoughtful ideas impacts how people work. So we'll continue to drive content through these video chats, through our roundtables, and additional ways to allow you, the HR professional, to connect with people like Meghan, Hollan, and others. So Meghan, thank you so much for your time. And I wish you continued safety and health and well-being and patience. And until next time, we'll see you.
Sounds great. Thanks,
Thank
John.
you. All right.
Thank you.
Bye now.